So 1994. Okay,
That's like the whole premise of John Wick, isn't it?
Yeah. It's true. You love
But if you hate dogs, then of course I agree.
If
Don't
you're a
watch
cat
that
person, you won't really feel anything
What
towards
if I
John
like
Wick.
animals?
You love John Wick.
Seriously.
It's seriously a huge part of the story. I don't know why.
Yeah.
He kills people for his dog.
It's
Yeah.
the impetus. It's the impetus. Like,
Basically.
like, you
It's
can
the
His dog,
entire-
that was his German Shepherd from I Am Legend, right?
yeah, I know.
But it was a
The
puppy.
entire
That's literally the
first
plot
movie-
of the whole movie.
The first movie, the entire plot
Yeah.
is spurred on by the dog.
Cool, now I don't have to watch it.
No, you
Dude.
Blair, isn't it
That's
the
crazy.
third movie? Like, doesn't somebody like comment on that? Like, you killed all those people because they killed your
Halle
dog.
Berry makes a comment because someone shoots her dog, and then she's like, and then you know what's gonna happen because she's like, well, you touched the
She's
dog.
like, I'm about to John Wick your ass.
She just starts
Dude,
doing
there's like
it.
this funny meme of like John Wick holding a puppy and it's like turning into dust like after Thanos snaps. And like it shows Thanos like
I saw that.
It's so good.
Job, man.
He's like, oh no, what do I do?
I know. I'm just happy Keanu he was in the Matrix and he's still around, like relevant. He's Neo.
Okay.
Well, dude, what I like is that he is so badass. Is like he does his stuff.
Yeah.
For a majority of
Yeah.
things,
Which
which is
practices
cool.
cool.
Which I like. Like I think he does all these shit more badass.
All the shooting training.
Yeah.
Like he rides all
He
these
does this shit. He was riding a horse and
riding the horse, like shooting and stuff or whatever.
So
I'm
that's
like,
another thing.
so I'm like, yeah, that's
besides
badass. But then,
Keanu
like,
Reeves, like just the way they choreograph the fights and the way that it's
Yeah.
filmed,
Yeah.
it's just
It's
it's like reminiscent of like good.
Things are happening.
Whatever.
It's like
You're
Jackie
gonna watch
Chan.
the new Chernobyl.
Oh, yeah.
I like it a lot.
Is
Yeah.
it like real?
I mean, a lot of it is based off of like real
It's
events.
popping up, and I'm like, should I watch this? I don't know.
It's pretty entertaining. Like, I mean, it's sad because it's real, but at the same time, it is entertaining because of the fact that it is real. Like that shit can actually happen.
It's still like over there. I mean, it's still like a radioactive
Oh, yeah.
over there.
Yeah, so like people do all the dark tourism over there, where they go and they
They
like
explore,
they
like
do
the
they do that, and I think like around.
I know. I feel like you tell them to like.
I was gonna say, and
Like
then
I
the
saw there was a
nuclear plant.
Netflix special about the dark tourism where the guy goes and just does all this stuff, and like it's like I can't remember what the scale was, but it was like way above what people should be at. Like
Whoa.
so like they were on a tour bus, yeah, what people should be exposed to, and they're like, let's leave, like, we gotta get out of here, because there's other people that were there with them, and they're like, we gotta get out of here, like. Because this is way above the level that we thought it was.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Dark tourism on Netflix? I didn't even know. Dark web, dark tourism. Why can't it be light?
They just let nature, obviously, there's no way to get, there's no feasible way to go in there and clean everything out. And like,
Yeah.
keep everything clean.
I mean,
So
that's-
nature just took it back. And so, like, wildlife started going into it. They don't really know. So they started mutating
and shit.
and, like,
What the?
double-headed wolves and, like, crazy butterflies.
This is on Chernobyl. This is something different. That you ever seen.
Both.
Dude, I need to look into this.
And then the nuclear plant.
Wait, why can't I?
The collapse, the
I'll
nuclear
check
reactor
it.
in Japan.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Let's go ahead and get started. All right. Everybody here. Oh, we're missing quite a few people. Hopefully they're running late.
Like Project 2 hit, and everybody's like,
No.
Okay, that's good.
I am done.
Everybody better show up because I made all the groups, so I'm already missing one person.
Jeez.
Instead of 24, we had 23, so one group has 3. So, okay. All right, everybody good? Ready? What is it? No groups of 5. We'll go through
That's
them.
what I'm saying. Is that you had 5 last week, so it's got to be in the group of 3.
It's because I moved in.
Well, so,
I was probably the extra person.
extra person. Well, we need one more. If somebody leaves, it's 22. It's still not.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, so we need one more. Maybe we can convince somebody from the other class to join after.
Let's flip the coin again.
All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to week 16. So week 16 and 17 are project weeks. All right, for this project, you have a little bit more time because of Memorial Day weekend, so we'll go through it. So today I'll try to wrap up the lecture as quickly as possible so that you guys have more time to work on your projects, come up with ideas and all that stuff. Well, again, similar to previous project, we'll start by, well, I'll start the groups and everything. Then we'll start creating our project. The team lead will create the project in GitHub, link all that stuff, give everybody permission, and we'll see two tools to use in this project. One is called Linter, and the other is Travis CI. We'll take a look at that in a while over here. All right. First thing. So this is what we are going to look at. The first one, we'll be creating a repo, add members or collaborators, and then linting and Travis CI for today. All right. So let me go ahead and first of all Slack out the teams. And this time our theme is not superheroes. Instead of, I chose Harry Potter. So pick anything from. All right. All right. Give me a minute here before you guys start moving. All right. So you'll see. I have teams of 4. There's only one team. All right, guys. Here, give me a minute. There's only one team with 3 people, but I have full confidence that team will still be okay. All right. So team 1 is Andrew, Kellen, Chess, John, then Bryce, Randy, Roland, Britton. Jeff, Ivana, you guys can get up, get into the teams, and then we'll start the next step. Again, the theme is.
We didn't have to move at all. We didn't. Yeah. Good thing I got comfortable, Daniel.
Harry Potter.
Alright, we're gonna choose.
Can we be Hufflepuff?
Gryffindor. Who the hell is Hufflepuff?
Me.
Whoa!
Hufflepuff.
We are
Hufflepuff?
Gryffindor. Yes. That's what it says. I didn't see who we just right here. Hufflepuff traits. Welcome back. My traits. Team Targaryen. Hard work, dedication. Yeah, I like this. We're Hufflepuff.
Okay, guys. I want to create a chance.
Hufflepuff. Got it.
It's Harry Potter. It's
Yeah.
a Hogwarts house.
This like is so.
You want a Harry Potter?
Like, I mean, we're so good.
We call Team Hufflepuff.
Yeah,
Oh,
you
okay,
can.
okay, I thought that was Harry Potter. Just write like a badger. Just like draw a little badger. Hufflepuff, she took your rested.
Yeah, you said to school. I know my girlfriend's a teacher. She just finished. And I'm like, yes, what's over here?
And I'm like, and they, nobody's allowed to say because they're finding out.
Everybody settled in? I think we are only missing Ali, right? Everybody else is here. Ali is missing, right? Only somebody from your group, Ali, is missing? All right. All right, everybody good? Let's go ahead. All right. So you'll have time. I think Hufflepuff and Gryffindor are taken. You can come up with the names, the rest of the team. So we have 6 teams. All right, all 4. There's only one team with 3 members. If you guys get, I would suggest to work with one of the TAs. Hopefully they kind of get into your team and help you guys out because you guys are 3. All right. All right, before we begin the lecture and the tools and everything, I want to mention something from the previous projects. Again, I have no doubts about skill set of each one of you. Guys are here until project 2. I've seen the progress. Of course, like if you go to any class, right? Some of the students are going to be ahead. right? Some of them are like me, late bloomers. They kind of get it, but the dedication is there. You guys are still working on it. That's awesome, right? So there's no issue with the skill set. The problem that I see mostly in projects is the communication. Right? So I'm going to mention, guys, communication is extremely important, and there is nothing like less communication. Right? You have a group meeting on Sunday at 2 o'clock for some reason. Okay, let's suppose you have that. Let me. Oh, that's not my speaker. Okay, so please, if you are not able to make it, just say, hey, I cannot make it. It's better saying that versus kind of like ghosting your team, or be like, hey, there's no response, nothing is going on, not sure what's going on, right? I will tell you that this is the number one problem, and if you guys are communicating well, there shouldn't be any problem at all, right? Usually, people are considered, you're like, okay, I cannot make it, fine, okay, we'll adjust accordingly, right? But what is not acceptable is, people don't know where you are you coming or not, kind of, that relationship is not there. That trust relationship between your team, that's important. Again, the same thing. You have been assigned a task, right? We look at Kanban boards. We divide our project into tasks. Um, at most, I mean, you should be spending like 2 days on one task at most, like 1.5 day, and the half day to merge and go through all the conflicts and everything, right? That's how small your task should be. Again, if you're not able to complete it, again, there is absolutely no shame in saying, hey, I need some help. You spend one day and you think you're not going to make it, just call it out. Say, well, I'm kind of on a spot. It's difficult. It's taking more than I thought. All right. So somebody will definitely jump in and help you versus just keeping quiet. Instead of taking 2 days, 3 days pass, 4 days pass, no communication, nobody knows what's going on. Okay. For this project, again, I will stress, please keep your communication well, right? Your schedules, you're able to come to the class or not, are you going to stream or not, right? I know students tell me, that's fine, but in project week I stress that you tell your team first and then you tell me, hey, I'm streaming, that's fine, right? Or the TAs, but your team needs to know before I or the TAs know that you're streaming, you're not going to be here. Again, you have off-site meetings, please let your team know, right? Keep everybody in the loop. There are multiple communication methods. Slack is already for you guys. You can create a channel, do it. Other chat apps or messaging apps, group me, anything you want. Just make sure you are available and what you have committed. If you're able to make it, fine. If you're not, just communicate that with your team. Okay, everybody clear on that? Good. All right. Next thing, let's go ahead and look at the requirements. Okay. So requirements, you will see that they kind of tie into our phase 2, what we have learned so far. Node and Express, that's a given. Your app wouldn't be complete without it. Backend is MySQL database because that's what we learned. SQLize is extremely important. So if you are working with MySQL, there shouldn't be any reason you are not working with SQLize. We saw the power of SQLize. I'm not sure why you would be writing queries anymore. Again, if it's a complex query, I understand, but try to use SQLize. Get and post routes, again, retrieving data. As I said, when you are making an app, the CRUD operation should always be there. I know it says get and post, but I would say get, post, update, delete. All four, keep that in mind. Because you are going to be deleting something. You are going to be updating something. Okay? Heroku with data. With data means you're going to have a database on Heroku. All right? Everybody understands that? You cannot access localhost. All right. Must utilize at least one new library, package, technology, same as previous one. Must have a polished front end and UI. Okay, so the expectation is more than your project one. You guys have more knowledge, more skill set, right? You guys know a lot more about front end. So the expectation is the front end would be much better than the previous project. Works on mobile phones, tablets, or whatever. Make sure all the constraints, everything is good. Okay. Folder structure meets with MVC paradigm. Okay, that's a model view controller, and I'll come back to this in a minute. Right? Good quality standards. These 2 points we'll take a look at in the class. Must have a folder structure as MVC and good quality standards. I'm going to show you one tool so that you can use and kind of have that coding standards over there. API keys, protect them. You guys have done this in your homework also, so make sure go back and see how you protected those API keys. That should be okay then. Okay. Any questions on the requirements? Everybody good?
Oh, one thing.
Yes.
So like that protect API key, that's pretty standard to think like if you're using API calls and not have them just visible in your
Right.
XML.
Yeah.
But it's funny now, like, because at my job, like we have these developers, so I see these things.
Right.
And I'm like, why do we have the API key like right in the HTML? Like anybody could just.
Yeah, I can go to your GitHub and copy and start using that API key, right?
Yeah.
So that's why you need to protect your API keys. Another thing, what was I going to say? Was it MVC API keys? Oh yeah. So you're going to have MySQL. You're going to have some personal data. You're going to store some data, all right? And then you will be making calls to API also, right? Because you need some data from somebody else depending on your projects, right? Remember that link I sent for the APIs, all the free APIs, take a look at it. Kind of, I would say structure your project around the APIs. That's much easier versus coming up with something. That's good if you can come up with something. Again, it's my strategy because, I can't think anything new. But what helps me is if I'm looking at the APIs, what I know what I can work with, then it's easier to come up with a project for me. Okay, but if you are creative, you want something, please go ahead and do that. For other teams, it's much easier. Look at the APIs, pick 2 APIs, and kind of revolve your project around it. Okay. The second thing about the APIs. In the first project, the biggest issue was the cores issue, right? Everybody at some point faced the cores, the cross-site scripting thing in Chrome, right? There shouldn't be any issue this time if you write your project correctly. By correctly, I mean your API, the call to the third-party API should be in your Node app. Okay, your Node IDE should be the one that is calling the third party API. This is the API that you guys were using from the front end in the first project, right? In the first project, you had your browser, and that was the one that was calling your third-party APIs, right? And that's we were running into a lot of core issues because of Chrome. Chrome kind of restricts some of the access and all that stuff, so that's why it was causing it. Now, if you hide this, you still have your browser, your site will run. Instead of directly calling this, I would highly suggest you write your API code in your Node.js, and then you call this API, and your Chrome browser is going to be calling your APIs, basically your CRUD operations. Okay, so it's a layer on top of the third-party APIs, right? And remember, people were coming and telling me, hey, if I look at the example, they have this Node.js example. That's what it is. That's why they have, if you look at those APIs, go back, and again, this time you will understand all of them have Node.js examples and samples, and that's what they're saying. So you are going to call this API from your Node.js server, not directly from Chrome. Again, you can do it, but again, you will run into some of the core issues. To resolve those core issues, this is one of the best ways. Okay, best and easy way. There are other ways, and people kind of got around it in the first project. But still, it was kind of similar. You had to clear a layer on top of these APIs and kind of trick Chrome into thinking that you're calling a secured one. Okay? Any questions on this? Everybody kind of understand the strategy? Right? Call the APIs from your Node.js code. And we know how to call them, right? Express, we saw HTTP, we saw the methods to call, make a call to third-party APIs. All right? So I would highly suggest work in this architecture. Kind of hide everything. And your client is always talking to your app. It is never going and talking to somebody. It has no idea what is going over here. That's the backend part. The front end has no idea other than this Node.js Express server. That is you. That is the only thing it's talking to. It's not going out and doing something. There might be a use case, I don't know, but for now, for this project, I can think of a reason why you would have to go bypass your server and directly make an AJAX call to a third-party API. Okay? Again, same issue. If you try to do that, you might run into those code issues. This is the best way to kind of avoid those issues. And I would suggest looking at this architecture because then you have the flexibility. This API, the third party, is returning you arrays and a lot of information, but like let's suppose returning you like 15 fields. You only need like 3 of them, right? So what you can do is you can get the data and kind of massage it, parse it, and just pull out those 3 fields and send it back to your browser, to your project. Kind of easier. Okay. All right. Everybody understand the concept, the architecture, what I'm saying? Okay. Okay. It says not required but nice to have. Utilize handlebars. Right. So I know it says, but unfortunately you will see that some of you might have to use it anyway. All right. We'll take a look. So handlebars, I understand that people don't like it. People, it's difficult. But again, please make sure you understand the concept that is all what React is. It's kind of built on top of it. Yes.
When you say nice to have that extra credit?
No such thing.
I don't think there's a.
It'll be 5 extra house points for every
Nick, what do you think?
additional item.
That's a good question for our TAs. I don't think there's any extra credit, to be honest. Nick, they usually grade by if you have met the requirements, right? So, right. So these nice to have, what they are usually is they will help you. For example, the authentication. There's no separate topic or a lecture on authentication. It's a good topic, but we don't have time to cover those things. And these are the things that you can look into it. I know Bryce did it for Google Calendar last time. Andrew's team was looking into some of the authentication part. Some other team did it. So that's the part that that kind of should be challenging for you guys if you guys are you have done your project at a point and then you want to look into this also. This is a good challenge also. Okay, using an existing public set to power your database. Again, this everybody an idea what this is saying. This is basically saying that you have your MySQL database. You kind of need data in your database, right? So you kind of pull data from some public source. Please read the disclaimer. Don't start storing data that they're not letting you store. Okay. Only public set of data that they are fine with you storing in your database. Go ahead and see if there is something like that, and then pull that information and put it over here. This way, you don't have to kind of keep going to your APIs, the third-party APIs, and getting that data. Kind of speeds up your process. Okay. Again, this is nice to have, not necessary. Seed and schema file. I'm not sure why it is saying not required. I mean, I don't know how else you're going to share your database structure. So, I mean, the first one and the last one, I don't know why it says not required, because the next slide, when I show you guys, the last one I already told you. I don't know how else you will share. You'll be like slacking out queries to everybody else. This is the much better way, right? The first one. Let's go back to the first one in a minute. Before, any questions so far on the requirements? Okay. Yes. No. Good.
Is that's on the slide, right? The presentation thing. It's in.
The requirements. I'm going to slide them out right now. I have them over here. And then, or Nick can, and then he can pin it so that you can go back to Slack and keep looking at that. Nick, could you pin the team names also? Thank you. Okay. Presentation, same as the first one, 10 minutes. All right. Everybody understand? Similar to what you did as the first one. All right. Advertise your code, advertise your project as much as you can. All right. For me, I prefer demonstration over presentation. I mean, presentation should be there, but maybe a small part, and then go and do the demonstration part. The due date for this project is June 8th. Okay. And that is a Saturday. So we are going to have 2 classes giving presentation. So this time I'm going to super strictly enforce 10-minute rule. Okay. So I would suggest 10-minute includes your question answer session. So please leave like 3 minutes for question answers, or 2 minutes, depending on how big your. But last time, I don't think anybody, like, the presentation wasn't like as big. Anybody's presentation that kind of took the whole 10 minutes. Usually, it was question answer that took more time, right? So I would say leave good amount of time for your question answer, 2-3 minutes, and then divide your time accordingly. Maybe a 3-minute presentation, 5-minute demonstration, and then 2 minutes for your question and answers. Okay. Any questions? You did? You did? Okay. Personally, I think 10 minutes is a lot of time. You guys tell me, was it enough?
Almost too much.
Almost too much. That's what I think
It's a lot
so.
of time, but it's enough time.
Okay. So it's depending on who I talk to. Some people, for me also 10 minutes was still a lot of time, but I can see that. Okay. All right. Again, your projects will be the TAs will be grading your projects similar to the previous one, and they are going to be looking at the requirements. That's the number one. So all the requirements that were listed, if any the must-haves, if any one of them missing, the grade kind of goes down. Okay. Again, I like to clarify this from the beginning because I don't want people coming to the TAs and kind of hassling them and saying, "Hey, I did this, I did that." Please look at the requirements. If you are missing, they are going to give you a lower grade.
What if we get really close to them and they're like, hey.
Yeah, I've had some from my previous cohort, so that's why I clearly mentioned these are the requirements. They have to be followed, and they are going to look at those requirements and look at your code and then determine whether you did those requirements or not. Okay?
Were TAs threatened in previous cohorts? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
Nick had a very good experience.
You better break my code, write it for me. So yeah. That's real intense. I need that code written up. All right.
Now I really want to know.
All right. Now, what was it?
The code goons. I mean, that's funny.
Okay. All right. But I mean, the second project came around. We did have a talk. Everybody was cool down. They were like, okay. And I said, you have to follow the requirements. Otherwise, you're not going to get the grade you're looking for. Okay. All right. Any questions so far? Everybody remember the due date? It's kind of more than enough time. The project is 2 weeks, but because of the Memorial Day, you still have more than 2 weeks. Okay. All right. Any other questions so far? Everybody good? Understand what are the requirements? He select it out. He will pin this, and then the team names are there. Select out the activity. Let's see. And okay. All right. So the first part would say the handlebars. This time is going to be a little bit different. We talked about the MVC pattern and handlebars. So what we are doing is you are going to get a boilerplate or a starter code this time. Okay? So every team will get a starter code, and the code is the folder structure is divided into MVC, and it has the handlebars kind of main template over there. Okay? Now, it is up to you guys. If you guys want, you can use this starter code or the boilerplate code and then create a project that will fill up your requirement for MVC, but you will still have to use handlebars for it. Or you can strip out if you think you can. Again, it's as flexible, whatever you guys want to do. You can use the straight up code, work with handlebars. It has the MVC pattern, start creating a code. It kind of gives you a head start. Okay. If your team decides, you can ditch the whole thing and start over and do your own thing. I'm totally fine with it, right? As long as the requirements are met. Okay? Or you can take the starter code, pull out handlebars if you want that, because it's not a requirement. You can do that, right? But again, the starter code has all this stuff. You will be spending some extra time if you take any approach other than using this. All right, understand that, right? Because you have to strip the handlebars, make sure your code still works without that, because you have to see what dependencies are there. All right, or if you're starting fresh, then you have to start the whole thing on your own. Okay. So we'll stack out the starter code. Again, the starter code is similar to your homework activities. It has all the MVC stuff built in it, handlebars, your server.js, and some of the tools that we are going to look at today. Okay, so you're going to have what we call boilerplate or starter code. Okay, any questions? Again, if you are using the boilerplate code, please spend some time to understand it, right? It has general names. It has, I think it's called project 2. I don't know what it, but it's like a general name, right? Please don't submit or something with the same names, or you'll run into issues. Hey, my project is this. It's not running. It's failing in GitHub or something. That's probably because you didn't go and look at the settings. All right, the settings are generic, so please make sure you understand every file before you start, and then what changes you have to make. You have to make changes to your database config. Your package JSON, right? It has a general description, a couple of more files. Okay, any questions so far? Good. Okay, similar to the previous one, we'll start with a quick activity. Please pick a team lead, and that person is going to go ahead and create a project, put it on your GitHub, add your team members, and then we'll start the next one. Okay?
What? I mean, I feel like I don't want the responsibility.
He's like, that's a yes. That's questions.
Okay.
All right, take like 15 minutes and complete this quickly. It should be pretty straightforward.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's the.
We need to separate him.
I'm having it's happening.
That was not.
I was talking about. I wake up in 1 hour. Like we have this. Setting.
Not that one.
I'm making the bread. I'm making the meatloaf for it. Because I saw this and I thought this is why you guys were like, go, Michael, go. I'm like, okay.
I was here. I'm sorry. Oh yeah, it's like that. I remember.
Ravenclaw is left.
So the thing is we need a issue. So as soon as we start somewhere, and then you go to then you go to so we have many small for large sites. I don't think we have something else.
We're gonna switch it to Bellatrix.
We don't have some. That's why we have the board. Require conquest before marching.
Fire status.
Fire status checks.
Well, isn't this the same as it was before?
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody said something about where you have the masters, you have like the mini masters, so you have everything here and you push it into this one before you push it. I remember somebody was talking about that. Michael
Yeah.
saying that's stupid. And he looked down at me.
Who?
That guy. He's
So-
like Hufflepuffin.
So usually in real world, what happens is you have a master branch that is your prod, and then usually you have a second branch called development or dev, right? So this is where you create your mini branches, and then at some point there's a delivery date, and then what happens? Somebody goes ahead and moves everything from here. But for this is a little bit more complicated because you will run into issues. You guys are not as there with GitHub. I would still suggest keep one master branch and then create mini branches. Have a stricter reviewer.
Yeah.
Okay, do not merge into master until it has been tested. Last time I know people ran into issue because they were like blindly approving. The other way could be
Because we got into the system of, we had to make sure everything was merged, everything was full before we push stuff up.
that's okay. But people say, Michael has put in a pull request. I trust Michael, and they never look at the code and they say, please don't do that. Or if you want really strict, what you can do is you can also have more than one approver, like two approvers. If somebody approves it, it still doesn't get merged until two people have approved it. But that's a little bit more stricter, and this will take more time because now instead of one, you have two people. Yeah, there's a get upset.
That's what I'm doing right now.
There's a get upset.
Should we have to?
Again, it's discuss with your team and see the pros and cons. So now two people have to be available to approve. So it will take a little bit more time, right? Because you approved it now. Not everybody is there, so you have to wait somebody else to approve it.
I did my associates. So, like, you guys want to do?
I know that would be the issue.
I learned way more about it.
I'm
What I know.
I've been trying to
The thing is it's okay if we break it. Break it, it's fine. I live by this for this thing. It's take chances. Make mistakes. I don't remember it. But I live by that philosophy. And that's a lot of the stuff. Invite the other group members as like what's just like put in your it's just different. There's
Oh, we did.
It's lots of lights.
So you do have windows in case you need to fall back on.
Yes.
Oh, wait, then you can't.
Yeah, you can't get back.
Yeah.
I'm just
Because once you
oh yeah, I didn't know that.
See, it's not. You guys. Yeah, I mean,
I just thought that's cool. It's just like down here, like
Oh, yeah, like so it's so in there it's signed in as Nora E. Are you this? Well, the thing is, okay, so you're all invitated. You've all been invitated.
To the two API, authorization and stuff like that. I mean, authentication. That could be
oh, I guess.
Grumpy cat. You can't have grumpy cat. What does it have to do with Harry Potter?
McGonagall. If you want to be a grumpy cat, McGonagall.
What?
Rather no muffins.
What is it? Huh? Yeah, sorry. Send it on, sir.
Oh, Jay, that's a real good name. The Death Eaters, that's a good name.
There was other ones that
Okay. Upon creation of your repository, we would like for you to create the browsing applications
it's like an app that.
for auto deployment.
Yeah, we're gonna auto deploy that sucker.
All right. One more minute.
Wait a minute, we're trying to auto deploy.
No, that's what I'm telling you guys.
Oh, we're gonna go.
So, look into your GitLab in the supplement folder for project 16. There are guides related to Heroku. It has a video also, and it has a complete guide how to complete this part. So take a look at this guide and then complete the second part of this exercise also. Okay? Creating branches.
Oh, I guess I can't.
Wait, where is it in the
In supplemental folder.
supplemental guides?
Project 16, week 16, project 2, and supplemental guides, GitHub, Heroku Connect. It has screenshots. At the end, it has a video also.
Actually, in the website itself.
Yeah, that's what it has. Yeah, that's what it has.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, create a new one.
right. The argument is also I'll go ahead and go down.
So now whenever we work in class, our
Like you said,
Well, it's the host of the whole.
Oh, are you just seeing my slides now?
Check out whatever.
That's what I know. So I don't want to mess it up.
So I had to. It's okay. We'll figure it out. We'll get it. We'll get it all taken care of. So.
I might try.
All right. Does everybody have the project set up in GitHub? All the collaborators added. Okay. Heroku? Working on. Okay. Done?
Already hooked up and set to up.
Oh, branch.
It's.
It's
I can send. Well, there's
Git
nothing
checkout.
right now.
Yeah, get checked out.
It is. So once you
minus B.
To create the branch. And then the branch name.
Oh, okay. There we go.
How did you know?
I just found this.
And mine creates branch, and then it's just the get push, or get add, get push.
Git add and git commit. Git commit.
And then you have to do the push request through get
Right. Yeah, merge request. Yeah.
merge request.
Well, what are these?
Pull request. Sorry. Get up. Get up. Says.
It's like get.
What is this?
Right.
Get branch.
Like get your two branch.
No, Git branch shows you what branches do you have under your project. It lists.
Oh yeah.
Checkout will switch you to the other.
Right. Checkout will switch, and if you do checkout minus B, it will create a new one.
Yeah.
Git branch does list all the branches that you have.
Get branch listing. Get check out B and then a branch name. Create a new branch. If you do get check out on B without a branch name, what's that doing?
It will give you an error. It will say, hey, you need to give. If you do git checkout branch name, it already exists. It's going to switch to that now. And why you would need that? Let's suppose you have two branches. Laura has one and you have one. And you are code reviewing her branch. So you will want to check out her branch and then look at the code and then approve her.
Literally check out. I'm thinking like check out like just different. It's like literally like check out like look.
Oh no, checkout will download her code to your screen, to your Visual Studio, and then you can look at it. That's what it means.
So that way you don't
Just check it out.
Yeah, you can check it out.
Everything is so literal, like the wording sometimes.
I told you, VA software engineers are not very creative. They'll run out of names pretty soon.
I want to check it out. Okay, check out.
I want to add this file. Git add.
Yeah.
I want to push my changes. Good pull. There you go.
Yeah. I want to get a pull.
Yeah, I want to pull some changes and you get pulled.
Yeah.
Dude, I totally agree, man. I was trying, I was like, I'm so frustrated. I was like texting dude, I thought this was gonna be easy. I was looking over, walk through, and I get to one part, and I'm like, this doesn't make it like when I actually
It's a way for tracking things we're working on.
There's nothing in the tables, there's like nothing here, it just has like
The
that
board.
crazy.
Yeah, it's exactly.
I see all that.
It's the same thing that
I seen him something so one thing I tried to smile. Other yes, it's he's like giving us one very outside
Oh, it's just like taking cabinets. So I know.
All right, everybody done with the Heroku part also? Good? Continue? All right. All right, let's go ahead and look at the next tool. And this is called linting. Anybody knows what linting means in programming? What is linting? Check for syntax errors. All right. So linting checks for syntax error, but it doesn't only check for syntax error. It also checks for your formatting. It checks for your declarations. Basically, it analyzes your code and then kind of finds some common issues with it, right? if you have more spaces, you have extra lines. Syntax is one of them, but extra lines, maybe multiple variable declarations, right? In JavaScript, we can have um, var a on the top and somewhere again var a again, right? And JavaScript doesn't complain. It's like, yeah, it's fine, right? So linting is something that kind of avoids these things. It kind of looks at your code and points out what kind of errors you might have. Okay. Linting is in every other language also. There are different tools. But the tool that we are going to look for JavaScript is one of the more popular ones. It's called ESLint. Okay. ES stands for ECMAScript. That's like the official name of JavaScript. We'll look at after the project what it is, but ES stands for ECMAScript. Okay. So ESLint is what checks for your Node.js and your JavaScript files and kind of finds issues with it. Okay. So that's the tool. Again, as I mentioned, it analyzes your code and kind of tells you with potential errors that you might be running into. Okay. In this project, we are going to kind of enforce linting. So once you are trying to push your code to master, it will go through this ESLint tool. It's going to check your code. If it doesn't fulfill the requirements that ESLint sets, the standards, it's not going to deploy. It's going to fail. Your what we call a pipeline. Everybody know what I'm talking about, a pipeline? Pipeline means that your code, you have completed your code, right? And then you push it to your master branch, well, to your branch, okay? And then you create a pull request, okay? What does pull request mean? You're trying to merge it to your master, okay? And then once everything is good, your code is in master. So this whole thing is called a pipeline. Basically, it's going through a pipeline. Okay. So somewhere in the pipeline, especially over here, is where we are going to deploy this tool, and your GitHub is automatically going to run this tool. We're going to set up, we're going to make some configurations, and it's going to check against the linter, and it will not let it merge to master unless all the errors have been satisfied. Okay. You won't be able to approve it, you won't be able to push it to master unless this has been completed. Okay. This is kind of very common strategy out there in companies also. It's nothing new. All of us, all the companies have some kind of a linting tool, and it does not let you merge your code until it passes this linting tool. Okay. So a code review, right? Some human does it, and then there's an automatic linter that checks and makes sure that everything is good. Okay. Any questions? All right. The tool is called ESLint, and we'll take a look at that tool. There's an extension there's a plugin in Visual Studio. Go ahead and install that. It's called ESLint. This is the one. Okay. This extension will help us visually. It will then, we can look at it. It will point out errors in our code, and we'll see how we can accomplish that. First of all, go ahead and install this plugin to your Visual Studio, and then take a look at the documentation below.
Does it matter if you install it globally or locally?
Right. According to the documentation, you have both options depending on what you want. You can do any one of them. It doesn't matter. Okay.
Global it will be.
Okay. Again, the document. Once you have that, we'll come back to this documentation in a minute. But the documentation, huh?
Is it normally like included when you download VS Code?
No, it's not included.
Mine says it's like already installed.
Okay. Right. Maybe you might have, yeah. I had to install. Did somebody else already has it installed? No, right? Yeah, it doesn't come.
I had the extension installed, but not the package.
Okay. Oh yeah. But this is like a third-party plugin that somebody else has made. You can see the name and everything. It doesn't come kind of default. That might be the case. Yeah. Okay. So we'll come back to this documentation and see how to set it up. Before that, we'll do this exercise, no lint example. So take a look at the example.js. Try to figure out as many issues that you can find. It could be as small as spacing issues, code not being consistent. Okay. Extra lines could be there. So work with your team. Just spend like a couple of minutes and take a look at this code and try to find out as many issues as you can see. Right. So this is the code that let's suppose intern came in and wrote this code, and you are the programmer who's going to review the code. So basically, you are reviewing the code and kind of giving comments.
But it's parsing.
So what about line number 1? Any issues on line number 1? Huh? No semicolon. Excellent. That's a good one. Yeah. No semicolon at the end. That's a really good one. What else? Huh? Double quotes. That's a good one. Again, remember JavaScript allows both single quote and double quotes, but double quotes be consistent, right? Once we run the linter, you will see that it prefers double quotes. So that's a good one. Double quotes, have double quotes around. Okay. Anything else? Underscore in the variable name. Yeah, that's a good one too. So we are looking for what kind of syntax? Like, if you don't want underscore, camel casing. All right, that's a good one. Anything else? Extra space, good one. Why do you guys see over here? There's an extra space. Also one. Okay. Anything else? What is it? Right-click format document. Excellent. I have to keep telling people. Every time I look in somebody's code, it gives me a kind of format.
Shouldn't the variable should be
Camel cased. Yes, that's what Matt and Laura were pointing out. Yeah. All right. Line number 2. It's kind of similar. Yes, camel casing, similar stuff. Semicolon missing. All right. Line 3 looks fine. Let's go to line number 5. Anything in line number 5? Double quotes. That's a good one. All right. Let's go to line number 7. Need another equal sign. Excellent. Please always use 3 equals. Right? Anybody knows the difference between double equal and 2 equal?
3 is more strict.
3 is more strict.
It's like, what is it, the type case where if it's 2, where it'll change it to, if it's like a string and a number, where it'll match the types, but if it's 3, it's exact. It has to be. Like
You guys
a string
get that?
to string or a number.
Right? If you had double equal, it's strict. That's the correct term. But if I ask you what does strict mean, then this is that if you're trying to match 2 and 2, if you use double equal to, it will kind of match. Right? But these are not actually equal. We know from looking at it, one is a string, one is a number. We don't want that. So that's why I use 3 equal to, it will match the type also. Okay? They both have to be the same type. Excellent. Let's move on. Line number 8.
Why do they even have that then? Like the 2 versus the 3?
Excellent. We have already declared result. There's a redeclaration over here. What was that?
Well, why do they even have like the 2 equal signs versus the 3? Because I've seen like, where people say use the 3 all the time. Like, why would you even have that?
Right. So again, some of the things that we see are the improvements to the version of JavaScript that we are using. Yeah,
So
it
this is
has
like
been
older.
always been like this, right? And then people were like, okay, yeah, we need to have some option to kind of make it more strict. So that's why they came up.
Okay.
You see the var, the let and const,
Yeah.
right? That never existed before, so that came on later.
So that's people are improving the language.
Right. Yes. Spacing, excellent. Camel casing. More important is the redeclaration. All right, everybody see that we already have a result on line number 3. Line number 9.
Indentation.
Indentation, excellent. Single quotes, double quotes, kind of similar thing. Line number 10, spaces, double quotes. Basically from line number 10 to 14. A common concept is indentation and formatting, right? The other ones we have already covered, the camel casing part. All right, let's make sure get in the habit of using semicolons at the end of every line. Okay, so that's good over here, but we're missing some on the top. Okay, we have else if, then again else line number 15 to 18. Anything other than we have already covered. Line numbers 15 to 18. Indentation, okay. Anything that we have not covered? Okay. Yeah, I don't see anything else also. What about line number 18 to 20? Anything that we have not covered? Okay. Last line. Anything else that you guys see that we have not covered? Okay. So that's the code review. Again, if you think this is how usually what happens. One of the features, one of the things when we do code reviews at our places, usually the expectation is the formatting and this should be fine. But if this is not that people are looking for this kind of stuff because we need our at the end of the day, your code base should look like that only one person has worked on it. I mean, it's a very far-fetched goal. It never happens. You can basically tell. But the goal in mind is that when somebody looks at our code base, it should look like that only one person has written that code. Okay?
Do we care about comments in the code? Should that be part of it?
So the comments part. Just like spaces and tab, there are two groups. I don't know if I talked this before. I think I
Your
did.
code's so good, you don't need comments.
Right, that's the school that I belong to. But
That's the goal.
that's the goal, and that's the school that I belong to. I am of the opinion that my code should be like my declarations, my function name, my variables should be good enough that it should be self-explaining what I'm trying to do. But again, it depends on the company you go to. Right now, at USA, comments are really appreciated. So I have to,
Begrudgingly
Good.
put
Yeah,
comments.
yeah.
Like, you stupid developer.
Right. So I do. Again, this is a good example. This is what your team comes to decide. Work with your team and kind of set the standard. Once you set it, please be consistent. Always follow it. Okay. If your team decide, hey, we want comments, maybe when you have a function name, some of the standards could be once you are declaring a function, you should have like a nice comment on the top. So let's suppose I have a function sum. Okay, over here I'm going to put a nice comment saying, hey, this is the input, this is what the function does, this is the input, these are the input parameters, and this is what the function is going to return. Okay, that's a kind of good point, and you would put that on the top of every function that you are creating. Okay, within the function, if there's some complex logic, you can use your double slashes and kind of explain what's going on over here. Again, this is the standard that you guys need to come up with, work with your team. If the team wants this, then please be consistent, follow this along. If your team doesn't want it, don't follow. Okay. Again, both are fine. Both have pros and cons, and it just depends where you're working and what are their standards. Okay. All right. Other questions? Good. All right. So let's take a look at the ESLint, and then we'll. This is exercise number 3. So go ahead, get this exercise. We'll try to walk this together. We'll see if we can get the installation and everything correct. So the plugin is ESLint. So let's go ahead and see what they're saying. So I've installed this. Okay, everybody has this. The next part, they're saying either do a local install or a global install. It's up to you guys. And then, so let's go ahead and start with that first. So We are doing exercise number 3. Let's see if they're good. Nick or Troy, could you slack out number 3?
Yeah.
All right. So this is what we are going to be working with, and we'll look at the ESLint, JSON, and all that stuff. Okay. So same thing over here. We have our example. Okay. Same thing from the previous one, and then we have a package JSON. So go ahead and do a, oh, it already has ESLint. So you can run your package JSON npm install, and it should install the dependencies from here. And that is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to open this in terminal, and then I'm going to do npm install. This is going to install my dependencies, which is basically ESLint. It's the same thing that this documentation is mentioning. Oops, can scroll. Okay, interesting. Okay, so I did the ES install. Okay, create a ESLint RC. We see that we already have this file over, so we don't have to create this. Run by ESLint init. Okay, let's try. Let's see what else it says. ESLint will initialize. Before that, I'm going to run ESLint on this file and see if I need to do a init or not. And the reason is that I already have these files. ESLint, what I think is kind of generates these files. Okay. ESLint and example.js. Okay. So what am I doing? I'm saying that go ahead and run this linter on my example.js file. Okay. So I'm going to run this. Oops. Okay. So this is a local install. That's why it says that. So I need to go into my node modules instead, and then it is node modules and then bin folder. How come I don't have a bin folder? Oh, it's dot bin. Okay, so dot bin folder, and then go into my ESLint. Nope. Yeah, there it is. Okay, ESLint, and then I have to put in my examples. Okay, everybody understand why? Again, look at the documentation. They're saying if you do a local install, that's what I did, right? That's why I see my node module. If you did your global install, then you can just use ESLint and give the file name. Okay, you don't have to go through the path. All right, so I ran my ESLint, and then let's look at the console. So you see example.js says we have 42 problems, right? And seems kind of right, and we already saw. And these are all the errors that it is listing. Okay, this is what ESLint does when you do ESLint and run it. The plugin that we installed will help with the visualization. So if you go to your example.js now, you'll see some red marks and all that stuff. That's what the plugin is helping us with. Okay, instead of looking at the text at the bottom, once you run your ESLint against your file, it's going to go ahead and point you out what's going on. So we kind of identify this. It says identifier num1 is not camel case. All right, kind of points you out, so we need to fix that. Parse int, it has an issue with parse int also.
How did you make it with the double
Okay. I know. Is it spacing?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was looking at this. I was like, oh, I need to pass in something else. All right. Geoffrey, what was your double equal to? Again, that's the plugin.
Double underline. Mine has like a squiggly line. Is that just the?
Yeah, that's just the plugin. Yeah, it should be okay. Again, I'm trying to think what I did. It might be just my Visual Studio, but you might see squiggly lines. It's the same thing.
I
Okay.
just like that. It looks better.
Okay. So this is the example of ESLint. That's what your code is going to be run against. And you will see something similar once you have your code set up, you have your ESLint file and all that stuff. Okay. Here's the neat part about it. And if you look at the console, the last line says 22 errors that can be potentially fixed automatically. So ESLint is smart, but not like completely smart. But what it is saying that, hey, I can fix some of these for you. I can fix 22 of them for you. Okay, and it says just do ESLint again with the minus minus fix flag. Give it a try, and looks like it can solve 22 problems for us. So if I do ESLint and then put in minus minus fix, let's see if this fixes something. Okay, so you see it fixed out of those 40 odd problems, it fixed 22 of them, and kind of we have now some of them we have to fix ourselves. So it fixed the spacing part, you know, something that it knows is not going to break your code. Okay, the important point over here is ESLint is fixing the code that is sure it's not going to break your code, right? You see, it didn't fix the camel casing part. Why? Because this is the variable name you're using different places. It's going to break your code if I change it over here. Okay.
So, question.
Yes.
So, I'm just looking at it, so that if you install Global, then you don't have to do the whole node map.
Yes. Right. That's what I said. Yes.
Yeah, I was making sure.
Maybe I need to come back with the policy of closing my closing
No.
everybody. Okay.
No.
All right, and then you saw, so some of these you will have to fix, like the camel casing and all that stuff, but this is easy. We can go ahead and start fixing them. I guess this is camel case. Let's see if it still is fine. Okay, so the camel casing part went away. I have a number 1 assigned, but I'm not using it. Okay, so I actually, it seems like I don't actually need it. Oh, well, I do, because I need to fix these. Okay, so if I fix this one, this error goes away, and then you can go ahead and fix all of them. Okay. Questions about ESLint? Everybody understands the concept. Installation is pretty straightforward. Any questions? Yes. All right, hold on. I can hear. Yes. How do you?
Just do npm install.
Right. So you're looking at the documentation, but you don't see the global install?
It's at the top.
It says over here, right? Local install or for a global install. Line number 2. It's on your plugin. Okay. All right. Now here's the question: How does ESLint knows where are the standards coming from? Like, how does it knows what to check for? We tell it, but how do we tell it? The JSON file. All right. Look at the panel. Look at the left panel, and you see some JSON files. ESLint_rc.json. That has all your standards. That's what ESLint is looking for. And it's going to go and look at these. These are all the rules that is going to check against.
Oh.
Okay? It's not like magical or anything. It's a hard-coded JSON file. It has these rules. Okay? So ESLint knows how to read the JavaScript object. It's an object, right? Rules and an object over here. So it looks for these things. And if you hover over it, it will give you kind of a little bit of explanation. Okay, so these are the rules that have been set up. Now, let's suppose you don't like this rule for some reason, right? You want your duplicates. I don't know why, but you are like, hey, JavaScript and Wild West, I do want my duplicates, right? So what you can do is you can just remove it, right? And this rule will never be checked.
So does it add the JSON file to every?
Yes, not to every. Okay.
You just have to run the ESLint.
Right. No, that's not how it. I'll talk about this in a minute. But everybody understand where these rules are coming from. These are defined somewhere, right? If you Google ESLint rules, and there are some rules that are missing over here, you can actually just write it over here, and it will start working. Custom linters. You can write your custom linters. Usually these rules, if you see, some of the more popular ones are from Google, Airbnb, Facebook, right? They have defined these lint rules that they use inside their company, and they have shared graciously these rules with us. All right, so you can select which rules you want to follow, which company rules, and they kind of fall under this category. Okay. All right. Now, before any questions on it, everybody understand? Right. So Geoffrey's question was, where is this file coming from? Okay. If you look at this documentation over here, it says ESLint minus init. Okay. Try this command. If you do a ESLint on your project, what should happen is you can delete both of these files and then run a ESLint init. What ESLint init does is going to walk you through the same kind of set of questions. You guys remember when you do a npm init, it asks you a few questions. This is the same thing that it will do. It will ask you a few questions and basically set up your this JSON file. I already have one. Let's see if it says something. Again, if you run it, it's going to it's going to override your current rules. So no, it's already. Oh, it's minus in it. Thank you. Okay, so you see, it's going to start up. It's going to ask you a question what you're trying to do. All right. Again, if you are comfortable, this JSON file is already in the starter code, so you won't have to worry about it. But I'm showing you. Let's suppose you are starting fresh. You don't have any of those rules set up, so it's going to ask you what you're trying to do. Right? Usually I would say, okay, I'm going to select a popular style guide, right? I don't want to create something. Huh?
Say that.
Might be, what does it say?
It says to check syntax only, to check syntax and find problem.
Right, that's the next one.
And enforce code style.
We'll come to that. So it's just a question what you're trying to, so select the last one. Okay, then the next one, it will ask you which standard you're trying to do, Google, Airbnb. These are the ones that the companies have shared. So let's say if I say standard, then it will say, okay, what kind of file you're trying to do. What format do you want your config file to be, right? JSON, right? You can select JSON over here. And then it's going to ask you, do you want to upgrade or whatever, okay? So basically, I won't complete this, but basically what it is, if you do not have this JSON file, ESLint RC JSON, you can create a new one using ESLint init command. Okay, minus init. Again, if you're using the boilerplate code that I'm going to show you in the next next activity, you don't have to worry about creating a new ESLint because this file already exists, and you can run against your code against this file. Okay. I would strongly suggest use the one that is already there. Again, if your code matches even this standard, that's good enough, right? Versus you creating an extra overhead and trying to come up with your own standard. These are the standard that most of the companies are following. So even if you can get your code up to this standard, that's an achievement in itself in this project. Okay?
Can you delete that file if you feel like if you want to start all over or whatever?
Yeah, you can delete it. And then start again. How would you start over? npm ESLint minus init. You have the basic requirement to run the linter is you need to have this file. If you delete it, you have to create it somehow.
Okay. Can you just copy it from another?
Right. Yeah. Or you can use the ESLint init that I just showed you, and it will create that file. Right, but the requirement is you need to have this file. Either you copy it from online, you use init to create one, or you just use the one that is in boilerplate. But this file has to be there. That's how ESLint runs its rules. If this file is not, it wouldn't know what to do. Yes. Yeah. This file has. Let me close this.
So why doesn't have any of the rules? Just have the rules are different.
Are you looking at the unsolved? This is the same.
Yeah, same one.
Same one. Does anybody else have the same issue? I just.
I just had a bunch of different questions it was asking me.
No. It's asking you questions because you are doing ESLint init. If
Yeah,
you
so it was like
open
setting
the.
it up from the beginning.
Right. If you did init, then it overrode everything. Is that what you did?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, so that's okay. You can download the code again, unsolve one, and then look at it. Right. Again, one more time. If you run an init, lint init, what it means is initializing a new standard for you, right? If there's an existing one, it's going to override it, right? If you are using the unsolved one, download it again and open this file again. For the most part, if you're using the boilerplate code that I'm going to show you in the next slide, you don't have to do ESLint init or anything because that folder already has this JSON file. Again, as I was saying, this is a standard. If you can even get your project to follow these standards, that's an achievement itself. Okay, versus you going and trying to find out some other standards. So it's an easy fix. But again, I want to make sure that you guys understand that the tool is available. You can create your own standards, use somebody else's. It's out there. Okay, it's just knowledge. You should know what these files are doing and what it means. Okay. Again, the rules are being set in your eslint.rc.json file. It has to be there for your linter to run. If it is not there, it's going to say, hey, I don't know what to check against. What rules? I don't know what rules are you talking about. There are no rules. Just pass everything.
Wild Wild West.
Okay? Any other questions? Everybody understands? All right. So quickly, I'm trying to end this before the break so that you guys have more time. So in the next one, and they will, we still have the Travis set up. Okay, so the next one is your project starter code. This will be select out to you. Again, this is what I was saying. You have your config, models, routes folder. It kind of follows the MVC strategy. You can start using this code. It already has your linter built in. It has one extra file, Travis, and that's what we will take a look at it in a few minutes. But this is the boilerplate code or the starter code that I was talking about. You have an option. This thing is already set up for you. Please take a look at it. If you want to follow this, again, come as a group and decide if that's what you want to do. It already has some of the stuff built in. It kind of follows the MVC pattern. You can see it has a config file. It's a JSON, so I know it's kind of following the SQLized part. Okay, it has your routes, giving you some example about the routes. Your public folder has some kind of folder built in. It doesn't have the controller. Okay, but I would highly recommend looking at the routes and taking this part out and making the controllers. But this is the basic one. Views. So this tells you the handlebars. If you're working with this, it already has some handlebars, so you'll have to work with handlebars. 3 options. Use it as it is and build your project around it. Second options, if you don't want to work with handlebars, you'll have to figure it out, delete this folder and make sure it still runs wherever the dependency is. Third is ignore this whole thing and start if you want. Okay? But for this project, you already have this given to you. Any questions on the starter code? Everybody understands it? Okay, all right, we'll take a break, 10 minutes. We'll come back and we'll do the last one, the Travis setup, and then the rest of the classes for the project. Okay, we'll start back at 8 o'clock.
I think you should just get rid of all those and just that's so down. That was going to be my question. Why wouldn't someone not really still? I mean, that's true.
Well, yeah, so I shared the repository with everyone. And clone that repository.
What are we talking about YAML today? YAML's the Python.
Oh, YAML's using Java also.
Huh?
It's using Java also.
Is it?
Yeah, it's just like a.
I know, but I mean, it's
different
like Python where it's like white space sensitive.
Oh yeah. Yes.
I mean, I guess it is, but it's like,
Specify.
yeah, it's just easy,
the
that's why.
modules folder, but that's not.
Yeah, and that's what.
I think she needs to do
What is it?
And I try to understand the modules on my terminal every time.
Oh, you're doing the init part?
Yeah.
No,
That's what I was
we.
Oh.
And it's breaking mine.
Init is breaking?
If freezing is wrong, okay, cool.
It freezes, well, first it gives you a bunch of permission there, and then it turns to freeze.
Ah.
And then I just have to, you can't even, just, I guess,
Really?
Yeah.
Did you have a working base?
No.
We couldn't even get a working base.
Working what?
Bash command was wrong. I tried to install global.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I know, I'm just walking through it so that way I have.
Even the local is not working? You go to the node modules folder and run it, //
So when you go to the modules folder, you go to the bin.
Yeah.
When you go to DPS, there's extension, bin.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the whole route.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah, I would like,
Yeah, you cannot CD into it. Again, look at this plugin.
like, when we're actually doing the code, like look through it.
That's what they mentioned. If you are on Windows, you have to type it like this: //
And then,
other / this thing. Is that how you ran? Don't do init. You can run your ESNet against your
And
example.js.
so now that that branch has been merged, scroll down.
I was trying to understand.
Every time we merge a branch,
What is
we
it?
don't want it to delete it.
Our groups were truly randomized, or you clicked them because it was four right here. None of us had.
They were not random.
It was
not randomized. Not this time.
See, I was
You
actually.
picked the handpick.
Handpicks. Projects, I take them seriously. I handpick everybody.
Oh,
Why, you don't like your group?
I do. He just likes to torture us when it comes to activity projects.
Yeah, activities are random.
Okay.
No, you don't need to run your list.
Activities are
One
different.
A lot of thought has been gone in this project formation. Go to randomize and click that button. That's
Nah, what is that your, like, private? Oh, okay.
Nope. That's just the handle. It just came off.
That's like, this one the other day was turned the opposite way.
Yeah.
And I was like, this looks weird.
Yeah.
So you use popular stuff.
I rolled over it. Did you break it in the car? Probably.
Huh?
I keep breaking
Yes. Yes. I'm breaking
it.
everything.
I'm just a little. She pushes back there when people.
Griffin Puff. Ah, I love it. I love it. It gives me life.
So
Player.
you walked up at the end.
Yeah, it just freezes. You can't even control C. You just have to control it. I don't know why, but.
So it was.
you know what's wrong with you Windows people? I have
What's wrong with us? Everything. We can play games. You.
How many games do you play?
I don't.
Yeah, see? Still not working?
UNC piles on supported thing, and then it starts trying to, like, everything I do is in my extract, so it's work set up. So it says UNC piles aren't supported, and then it's trying to check stuff on, like, C Windows.
C.
Which is nowhere near where I actually am.
Yeah, well, I think what else is under C? Well, has the thought that we should stick with the problem.
Oh, it's definitely thrown away.
So it did appear. Okay. So.
But it's like, it's going to somewhere that's nowhere near any of my stuff. Like, there's no package.json C colon Windows, and even if there was, I wouldn't want to touch it.
Okay. So.
Like all this stuff is like H drive, documents, U of A boot camp. Like
Okay.
it's nowhere near C
Okay,
Windows.
so let's come on. Let's how do you start it again? Okay. Start again. Okay. So we are in where this. Okay. So you have. So what if you run ESLint and then the example.js?
Oh.
Just press enter. Do you have it globally installed? Is it? Okay, so it's not globally installed, so you have to go into your.
I have no idea.
Is it-
Yeah, that's why I was like, I don't know. I mean, I thought you said.
Yeah, because it's in Bash. So it's Linux.
and then we go into your .bin folder. Okay.
Okay.
And then ESLint folder.
Yes, I know that.
Is it bin or lib?
Should be in your.
Actually, I think.
Doesn't look like you installed them.
Oops. I didn't keep a copy.
That's okay. We are in the right folder. This is the folder.
Yeah.
And this is your this thing. Where's your main module? Okay, there it is. Open your. Yeah, it's not there.
Bin?
Yeah, bin. Should be ESLint.
Yes, valid.
Oh, there it is. ESLint is there.
Oh, yeah.
Why is it not showing up here? Oh, okay, let's try this. Modules.
Does it have to be .cmg?
What is it?
Does it need to have the file extension on it? Like that .cmg?
This one says over here. Let's see. No. /modules.bin ESLint.
Well, it ran when I did the .cmd, but then it through that same UNC path problem. Then it goes back to the Windows directory, which is nowhere near my data.
What if we do this and then?
You guys picked the wrong taskmaster. I'm just letting you know. He smiles a lot, but
It's like it doesn't understand how to work with the map
he's gonna
track.
whip us. He's gonna whip us. He's gonna whip me.
And why else would it go to the C drive?
What if we do?
Now, I mean, communication is key. Like,
Exactly, yeah.
having things laid
That's-
out in the beginning and sticking to that.
That's what I was like. I'm sorry up front and very anal, but I try not to micromanage. So if you think that I am micromanaging,
Yeah, I mean, that worked.
yes. Yeah. No, seriously, just tell me. And I will back up.
It's easy to do whatever you want to do.
I don't know why I didn't install.
It makes the micromanaging thing.
Okay, that's good. Now it's.
We're crazy.
I don't-
Literally say, are you doing this? Are you talking about? Like, we have a few steps in there.
Yeah, it didn't look like it was installed previously.
That's bizarre, because I actually reinstalled it like
You guys can tell me the back.
Oh, did you do an init?
Because I get very
It's
like.
kind of
Oh, I did, but apparently got wiped out.
Yeah, it probably ordered. So
And that's when I was getting those weird errors. Actually, I was showing you the init.
Yeah.
That's when those weird errors.
right. So this one go back and download the unsolved one with the unsolved folder again with the ESLint. Don't run the init one. Right. Just do npm install again. It will install it and then just run it again.
Okay.
So init will override your file, so it kind of overload everything.
Do that too. I mean, being real, yes. Because I don't care. But you know, we all did it. Because we had it. We had reset. Even if sometimes I had a low leg or whatever.
Be able to like dive right into your project too. I mean, I'm assuming
I don't want millions too. I like that shit.
And I like the shopping class.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, research and like maybe like do like a couple files, like start like a couple files.
So it's in the couple comments. This is gonna go in this file.
Yeah,
That's
I don't
it.
know why that.
So we here.
That's our connection, you know.
Grinding.
July 31st, I want to start this server
All right. 5 more minutes, and give me 5 more minutes. I'll go cover this, and then you guys have the rest of 1.5 hours. All right. So I was talking about the pipeline concept. All right. Remember from the previous project we talked about CI/CD, continuous integration and continuous deployment. At that point, we looked at GitHub and continuous deployment. What it meant was that as soon as you check into your master branch, your website was deployed in GitHub pages, and you can see the new changes, right? That's continuous deployment. Continuous integration and continuous deployment, that was kind of rudimentary thing, like a beginner's, newbies thing. Usually on your workplace, we use some other specialized tool. For example, Travis CI. We are using Travis CI. It's kind of free. I'm not sure where the name is coming from.
Who's Travis?
Right?
Best friend.
The other one that you will see in workplace used a lot is Jenkins. I don't know if some of you guys must have heard. It's kind of same purpose, Jenkins. What it does is it checks your code, it runs through the pipeline, it runs your linters, it runs your tests. We don't have tests right now, but usually these pipelines are able to run your test also, right? If all the tests are successful, all your linters are good, then it goes ahead and deploys it to your master. Okay? We don't have tests right now. We'll come to that part in future class. But that's the purpose of tools such as Travis CI or Jenkins. Even GitLab, at my work, we use a built-in tool which is inside GitLab. They also have a continuous integration tool, but the purpose is same. It runs through the pipeline. It runs my code against my linter. It runs all the tests, make sure all the tests are successful, and then it goes ahead and puts your code into your master. Okay? Everybody understand the concept of what Travis CI is doing, or Jenkins or GitLab, it doesn't matter. Okay? So these tools have built in some of the configurations, and when you're trying to push your code, it runs against a set of rules, and then it goes ahead and deploys it to master. Okay? Now, take few minutes, look at the documentation over here. It's pretty straightforward to set up Travis. The instructions are there. Set up your code with Travis. Okay? Once you are done with it, you have the next part is you guys can go ahead, split up with your groups. You can stay over here or go somewhere, and then by the end of the class, I want this time I'm mentioning I want a Word document. Just please one Word document. Put your team name, team underscore, and your team name as your document. And then before the end of the class, please send me this document. Again, team underscore and your team name dot your Word document extension. In this Word document, you will have your team names, your members, and then a description about what your project is. All right, give me a description so I can read it and understand what you're trying to do. And then kind of if you have time, you can attach a picture, just like a high-level architecture, how your project is going to work. Right, similar to the previous one. I'm following MVC. I'm going to have this screen, then this screen, then this screen. That's what I'm looking for. This is my home page, and my project is doing this. So I'll have these components. When somebody goes over here, I'm going to go over here. Then I'll do something over here. It comes to this page. Then it goes back. Some kind of overview that goes with your description. The description will tell me what you're doing, and this will give me a high-level overview, so I can imagine, okay, this is how your web page is going to look like. This is what components you will have, and this will be your project. Okay, that's what I'm looking for. If you want, you can use some tool to come up with these plans. Simple hand sketch, take a picture, put it inside your Word document. I'm perfectly fine with it. Okay, saves you time. Clearly indicates what you're trying to do. Put it over here and send it to me before the end of the class. Okay, again, create one-page Word document. Put your team name so I can identify which team is doing what. Description, member names and all that stuff. Description, what your project is doing. and kind of a picture, high-level overview of what your web pages are going to look like. Okay? Questions? Everybody understand what they need to do? Okay, so set up your Travis CI. After that, go ahead and start working on your projects. All right?
Yoki doki.